state-owned power utility is concerned that the drop in temperatures over the weekend will increase the demand for electricity as people use more power to keep warm. On Friday, the power utility implemented stage 2 load shedding following several breakdowns at generating units. The power utility last implemented load shedding in March and introduced load reduction in areas well known for illegal connections. While snow is expected in some parts of the country, load shedding is set to continue today from 9 a.m. and another cold front is expected on Monday. Now, can Eskom not provide enough power even with an economy running at half its capacity? To have this discussion, I'm joined by the head of the energy portfolio at the organization Undoing Tax Abuse, OUTA. His name is Ronald Chauke. A very good morning, Ronald, and thank you so much for joining us on Weekend Dawn. My first question, obviously, is you would think that during the national lockdown, Eskom would be getting things up to scratch so that we don't experience load shedding again.
Yeah, that's correct. However, unfortunately, even the 3 days that they predicted that during the winter period, load shedding will only be for 3 days, that we have to scrap it because we have to extend it to, let's say, for instance, more than 10 days, as they projected.
So my question is, 10 to 15 odd years, Kusile Power Station and Medupi Power Station have been under construction. Do we have any indication as to when these power stations will actually be online and we never have to experience things like load shedding? Because this is something that's been going on for over 10 years now.
Yeah, as it has already been regularly reported, there has been a lot of challenges in terms of what we call design defects, which affected actually the performance of those power stations. Like, for instance, you'll find that even Medupi, there are issues in terms of what we call the ash, which is being gathered during the power generation, and then the regular trips that are happening every time and again when the power station is online, unfortunately affecting its what you call production capability. So these problems on themselves, actually, Eskom has indicated that it is investing quite a lot of money, like I think it was in the region of between 30 and 40 billion rand, to correct those wrong designs. And then unfortunately, it's not yielding positive results. And then the other further area that is contributing to load shedding is the age of the plants which are being utilized to produce power. Because from time to time, they trip, they break down, and then unfortunately affect the power generation capacity of Eskom.
Now, let's talk a little about what we can expect over the next few weeks. Another cold front is expected on Monday. Do you think the utility will be able to keep up with the demand, considering that a lot of people are also going back to work? So the use of electricity has definitely been extended over the next few weeks or the next few months. Do you think we'll be able to manage? Do you think Eskom will be able to manage?
No, unfortunately, Eskom doesn't have sufficient power capacity. Like, for instance, when you look at our normal peak during the week, it's between 30 and 33,000 megawatts. And then Eskom, from time to time, they try to reach that level. But with these chronic breakdowns that are happening from time and time again, unfortunately, Eskom will always be in the short, whereby you find that demand outstrips supply. And then unfortunately, that will lead to me and you as electricity users being load shedded. And then the other contributing factor is what we call system overload in areas where you find that people stay in areas which are designed to actually supply a particular amount of electricity. But you find that there are additional unplanned what you call demand and connections to those networks, such as the transformers, due to illegal connections, as well as in households where you find that the back rooms also play a role. And then unfortunately, it contributes to infrastructure damage, also to situations whereby you find that the system, once it is overloaded, then trips are automatic, and then it leads to people having a problem. And Eskom has also indicated that it will do what we call power reductions. Those power reductions is also to control that issue of unplanned demand and unnecessary demand, which negatively affect the system performance. And then these things are going to stay with us for the foreseeable future, especially given the fact that we are in winter now.
This puts on a negative outlook generally then for a power supplier like Eskom, and also a bad outlook for our economy. So when do you think things will actually start changing for us, our economy, and specifically for Eskom?
No, things are likely to start once the Department of Energy allows for what we call the next round of renewables to start to come to play. And then the other thing is about us energy users. We need to find a way of how we assist Eskom in what we call demand management, meaning that we need to manage how we use our electricity so that if ever we are not using electricity, like for instance, rooms which are unoccupied has to be switched off, and then including office blocks, because you'll find that there is still a problem of a culture of energy wastage in the country. And then we as citizens, we must contribute to Eskom's, attempts to reduce the electricity demand. So all of us actually as citizens of the country, we have to contribute to that. And then the other thing is very, very important, that we need to teach even our children to be energy conscious so that they can contribute as well to the role of saving electricity. And then any new developments, including in housing and all infrastructure development, must introduce and implement what we call electricity saving or electricity efficient devices and technologies in those new developments, so that our electricity demand is controlled, and then actually we can be able to meet the minimum requirements.
Ronald, do you think now is the time for the renewable energy or solar energy to come into play, and maybe government should start encouraging people who can afford things like solar energy to go ahead with it and not rely on the national grid?
Yes, this is the right time actually to encourage, especially households as well as businesses, to go off grid, meaning that they need to invest in their own electricity self-generation capabilities in the form of solar, wind, as well as gas, so that they can actually give Eskom a breathing space to do proper maintenance, as well as Eskom to invest in new generating capacities. So that one actually is very, very important, that government, through the regulatory systems, the regulatory frameworks, as well as any other enabling mechanisms, that has to be actually encouraged.
I want to take this back to the power stations. There were recent reports about what happened in Kusile and issues of maladministration there. Do you think that overall, between Medupi and Kusile, a lot of mismanagement with money played a big role with why both power stations are not fully up and running at the moment?
Yes, that's true. Corruption played a very, very big role there. As civil society, we have been encouraging government actually to come up with a mechanism in which the projects which have severe and huge cost overruns, especially due to suspicions of corruption and then maladministration, those cost overruns and unnecessary costs has to be reviewed and then be audited, so that we know exactly the quantum of the money of those losses, and then we identify the relevant culprits who benefited unduly from those proceeds, and then government institute mechanisms of what we call recovering those money from the different companies as well as the different individuals who unduly benefited from those contracts. So from OUTA point of view, OUTA has actually been emphasizing to government that government must audit those projects, including Ingula, because Ingula, when you even take the delivery price of that project, it started initially at 9 billion, but it was completed at 36 billion. So you can see that there are huge irregularities, and then those irregularities must be investigated, and where money has been lost, that money actually, we need to recoup it and then bring it back to Eskom so that that money can be utilized to strengthen the liquidity of Eskom, and then the culprits be brought to book. It's very, very important that that whole process is undertaken.
Your take on the ones that are found guilty, do you think they'll serve time, Ronald?
Yeah, given the fact that when you look at the SIU has already last year actually went ahead and the NPA charged, it was 3 executives at Eskom. So we want them to do more of that. Because when you look at the wheels of justice. We are aware that they roll very, very slowly. However, that exercise has to be undertaken for government and the National Prosecuting Authority to demonstrate that government is serious in rooting out corruption and then in recovering the lost funds in the national interest. It's very, very important that that work has to be undertaken, and those investigations must be followed through until to the end, and then the culprits be brought to book.
Head of the Energy Portfolio at OUTA, Ronald Chauke, thank you so much for your time. He was speaking to us about electricity supply and load shedding from Eskom.